Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It will be settled quickly. I will get the problem solved, and I will get it solved in rapid order, and it will take me no longer than one day. I know exactly what to say to each of them. I got along very well with them. I would tell Putin, got to settle. I would tell Zelensky, you got to settle. I would tell one, you're going to load up with money. I'd tell the other, you're not going to get any money. I would get a settlement in 24 hours.
Welcome back to the IQ Factory. Today we're diving into a topic that's as intriguing as it is controversial. 10 ways to lie and not get caught. Now, before you raise your eyebrows, let's be clear. This isn't a tutorial for deception. It's a fascinating look at the psychology behind our everyday interactions. So whether you're a curious cat or just looking to be a better storyteller, stick around because you won't want to miss this. First up, we have the art of crafting a convincing backstory. Picture this. You're about to tell a tale of a lost treasure you discovered in the attic of your grandparents' house. The key to making this story captivating lies in the details. Begin by envisioning the treasure itself. What does it look like? Is it a dusty, ornate box, perhaps adorned with intricate designs? Describe how you stumbled upon it. Maybe you were rummaging through old family photographs when a glimmer caught your eye. Now, don't stop there. Think about the emotions tied to this discovery. What memories does it evoke? Perhaps it belonged to your great-grandfather, who was a sailor, and finding it brings back stories he used to tell you about his adventures at sea. The more intricate your details, the more believable your narrative becomes. But why does this work? Humans are wired to respond to stories. Psychologically, a well-constructed backstory taps into our innate love for narratives. It creates a mental framework that allows listeners to visualize and connect with what you're saying. When you weave in sensory details, the smell of the wood, the feel of the box in your hands, it pulls your audience deeper into your world. And moreover, consider the context in which you present your story. Timing is everything. If you share this tale during a casual gathering where people are already engaged in storytelling, it will resonate even more. People tend to be more receptive in relaxed environments where they're already primed for narrative exchanges. Remember, your aim is not just to fabricate a story, but to create an experience for your listeners. Use vivid language and emotional resonance to draw them in. The essence of a compelling backstory is that it feels rich and textured, making it less likely for anyone to question its authenticity. And here's a little pro tip. Don't be afraid to include a twist. Perhaps after revealing the treasure, you can mention it was lost again. This adds intrigue and keeps people wanting to know more. The unexpected keeps your audience engaged and invested in your tale, making them less likely to scrutinize the details. So the next time you're tempted to embellish the truth, remember, a captivating backstory can be your best ally. It's more than just a narrative, it's a gateway to a shared experience, turning a simple lie into a story that lingers in the minds of those you've captivated. Now, let's move on to our next tactic. Next, let's talk about body language. Have you ever noticed how confidence can be contagious? When you're out there trying to sell a story, your body language can make or break your credibility. Picture this. You're in a room full of people and you're about to drop a little fib. What's the first thing you do? You stand tall, shoulders back, and maintain steady eye contact. This isn't just about looking good. It's about sending powerful signals to those around you. And when you exude confidence, it creates a sense of trust, almost like an unspoken agreement that what you're saying is true. Open gestures, think arms uncrossed, hands visible, can help reinforce your sincerity. You want to appear relaxed and engaged, inviting others into your narrative. Avoid fidgeting or looking away. These are red flags that can give your lie away faster than you can say, oops. But it's not just about mimicking confidence, it's about genuinely believing in your story. When you feel confident in what you're saying, it radiates through your body. Your tone, pace, and even the way you breathe can convey assurance. A slow, steady delivery paired with an assertive voice can disarm your audience, making them less likely to question your words. Imagine you're at a party and someone asks you about a recent trip you took. Instead of mumbling about the details, you dive into a vibrant description of your adventures, using your hands to illustrate the breathtaking sights you saw. The more animated you are, the more engaged your listeners become. They're not just hearing a story, they're experiencing it with you. And here's a fun fact. Studies show that when people mirror your body language, like nodding or leaning in, they're more likely to believe what you're saying. So if you maintain that confident stance, you might just find your audience unwittingly supporting your tale. Now, this doesn't mean you should fabricate stories left and right. Remember, this is about understanding the dynamics of communication. Body language is a tool, like a paintbrush for an artist. Use it wisely, and you can create a masterpiece of persuasion that captivates and convinces. In a world where visuals often speak louder than words, mastering your body language is crucial. It's the silent partner in your storytelling, amplifying your message and enhancing your credibility. So next time you're tempted to weave a little tale, remember, your body is your best ally. Unleash its potential and watch how effortlessly your story takes flight. Now, let's explore a clever technique, the art of incorporating truths into your narrative, often referred to as truth sandwiching. This method involves weaving genuine facts into your tale. Picture this, you're telling a story about a fantastic vacation. Instead of fabricating every detail, sprinkle in some truths, like the weather during your trip or the name of a real restaurant you visited. These nuggets of reality serve as anchors. I spilled, making your overall narrative more credible and relatable. Why does this work? Well, our brains are wired to trust information that feels familiar. When you present a mix of truth and embellishment, it tricks the listener into feeling secure about the entire story. Think of it like a recipe. Too much spice can overwhelm the dish, but the right amount enhances the flavor. In this case, your truths act as the seasoning, subtly enhancing the overall taste of your story without overpowering it. Moreover, incorporating truths can help build rapport with your audience. When they hear familiar names or places, they feel a connection, making them more likely to buy into the rest of your tale. It's a little psychological trick that plays on our innate desire to relate to one another. Imagine sharing a story about your recent hiking trip. By mentioning a well-known trail or a popular landmark, you draw on shared experiences, creating a bond with your listeners. But there's more. This technique can also serve as a safety net. If someone starts to question your story, those truthful elements can help you pivot back to reality and reinforce your credibility. If you say, I went to that amazing cafe near the beach, remember the one with the green umbrellas? Suddenly you're back in familiar territory and it's easier to steer the conversation where you want it to go. So next time you find yourself in a situation where you need to embellish the truth, remember the power of blending fact with fiction. By incorporating truths, you not only enhance your narrative, but also create a compelling story that resonates with your audience. It's all about finding that perfect balance. And when done right, you'll be spinning tales that captivate and convince effortlessly. Fourth on our list is controlling the narrative. This is a powerful technique that can significantly influence how your story is perceived. When you control the narrative, you're not just a participant in the conversation, you're the director, shaping how others perceive your story from the very beginning. Imagine walking into a room and being the first to bring up a topic. By doing this, you set the stage. You introduce the characters, the setting, and the emotions involved. For instance, if you're discussing a recent trip, start by painting a picture. Describe the stunning sunsets, the friendly locals, and the delicious food. This way, when you slip in a little embellishment, like claiming you swam with dolphins, the context feels natural. It's like adding a subplot to a movie. It enhances the main story without feeling forced. Moreover, being proactive about introducing topics helps you anticipate questions and concerns. If you lead the conversation, you can steer it away from areas that might expose inconsistencies in your story. Picture a skilled magician. They divert your attention to the flashy tricks while the real magic happens elsewhere. By controlling the narrative, you keep the focus on what you want others to see. But it's not just about being the first to speak. It's also about using language strategically. Use phrases that evoke imagery and emotion. Instead of saying, I went to a party, you might say, I attended an unforgettable rooftop party under a starlit sky. This not only captivates your audience, but also creates a more immersive experience. They're not just hearing a story, they're feeling it. Another key aspect is pacing. By controlling the rhythm of your speech, you can build suspense or urgency. For example, when you share a pivotal moment in your story, slow down your delivery. Let your audience hang on to your every word. This creates a connection, making them more likely to accept whatever comes next, even if it's a little stretched. Lastly, remember that your emotions play a significant role in controlling the narrative. When you share personal anecdotes, infuse them with genuine feelings, whether it's joy, sadness, or nostalgia. These emotions resonate with your audience. They're not just listening to words, they're experiencing a moment with you. This emotional investment makes it harder for them to question the authenticity of your narrative. In summary, controlling the narrative is about more than just leading a conversation. It's about weaving a tapestry of storytelling that draws others in. By being the one to introduce topics, using evocative language, pacing your delivery, and connecting emotionally, you create a powerful narrative that not only captivates, but also obscures the lies woven within. So take charge and become the storyteller of your own life. Because when you control the narrative, you hold the keys to how your story unfolds. All right, moving on to a crucial point, limiting the details. Here's the thing. While a backstory can add depth and make your tale feel believable, overloading it with unnecessary specifics, that's where things start to fall apart. Think of it like crafting the perfect tweet rather than writing a long-winded novel. A tweet grabs your attention, gives you just enough to stay intrigued, and leaves room for interpretation. A novel, however, dives into every little detail, which might seem impressive until someone starts questioning every piece of it. In the art of storytelling or lying, brevity isn't just a bonus, it's your ultimate weapon. Let's break down why this works so well. When you stick to the essentials, you're painting a clear, memorable picture without giving people too much to analyze. Humans are curious creatures, but we're also wired to fill in gaps on our own. If you leave just the right amount of ambiguity, people will naturally connect the dots themselves, often in ways that align with your narrative. But if you drown them in an ocean of details, you're giving them more to question. And trust me, the more you say, the more likely they'll find something that doesn't quite add up. Imagine this scenario. You're explaining why you missed an important meeting. Instead of saying, I was stuck behind this blue sedan with a broken taillight on Oak Street for an hour, and my GPS kept rerouting me through alleys, try something like, traffic was a nightmare and my GPS didn't help. It was one of those days. In the first version, you're opening yourself up to questions. Why didn't you take a different road? Was traffic really that bad on Oak Street? Why didn't your GPS work? But the second version, it's vague, simple, and hard to challenge. Plus, it gives the listener less room to poke holes in your story. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. It's not just about what you say, but how you handle follow-up questions. People love to dig deeper. It's human nature. If someone presses for more, stay calm and casual. Responses like, honestly, it's a long story, or, oh, it was just one of those chaotic evenings, work wonders. Delivered with confidence, these phrases subtly suggest that the full story is too exhausting to explain and they discourage further probing. The key here is to sound like you're brushing it off, dodging their question. And let's not forget the psychology behind simplicity. People are naturally more inclined to believe straightforward stories because they're easier to process. The more complicated your narrative, the harder it is to follow. And that's when people start raising red flags. A clean, concise explanation feels natural and believable. Think about it. When someone gives you a long, overly specific excuse, doesn't it feel a little suspicious? But when they keep it short and sweet, you're less likely to question it. Here's another pro tip. Use ambiguity to your advantage. When you say something like, it's a long story, I'll tell you later, you're not just avoiding the question, you're creating a sense of mystery. This buys you time and shifts attention away from the topic. People are far less likely to push for details when they assume it's a complicated or boring explanation they don't really want to hear. Delivered right, it's setting up an invisible wall that says, trust me, you don't need to know. And finally, silence is your secret weapon. If someone asks a tricky follow-up question, don't rush to respond. Take a beat, as if you're thinking about it. That pause, it makes you seem more thoughtful and sincere, as though you're mentally replaying the event in your mind. Psychologically, this makes people more likely to believe you because they associate hesitation with honest recollection rather than fabrication. So remember, in the game of storytelling, less is more. Stick to the essentials, embrace vagueness, and leave just enough room for people to fill in the gaps themselves. The less you say, the less there is to question, and the more believable your story becomes. Let's dive into the next way, and trust me, this one's a game changer, using emotional appeals. Why does this work so well? Because people, at their core, are emotional creatures. While logic can sway the mind, emotions capture the heart. And when the heart is hooked, the mind tends to stop asking too many questions. If your story can trigger feelings of empathy, excitement, sadness, or even curiosity, you've already won half the battle. The more emotionally invested someone becomes, the less likely they are to pick apart your narrative. Think about it. When was the last time you doubted a heartfelt story about someone rescuing a stray dog or overcoming some incredible personal challenge? Probably never, right? That's the power of emotions. They short circuit the part of the brain that's focused on logic and fact-checking, and instead activate the part that makes us feel. And when people feel something deeply, they're far less likely to question whether the story is true. They just want to connect with it. Here's an example. Instead of saying, I missed the meeting because I was stuck in traffic, you could say something like, I missed the meeting because on my way there, I saw an older man struggling to cross the street. I couldn't just drive by. It felt wrong, so I stopped to help him. Now, whether or not that's true doesn't matter as much because it taps into something universal, compassion. Most people won't question that story because it resonates with a shared value of doing the right thing. It's not just a reason for being late. It's a moment that makes the listener feel something. But emotional appeals aren't just about sad or heartfelt stories. They can also be about excitement and wonder. Let's say you're recounting a personal adventure. Instead of giving a dry version of events, try framing it with curiosity and awe. For example, instead of saying, I found something interesting while hiking, say, you won't believe what I stumbled upon. It was like something out of a movie. I could feel my heart racing, and for a second, it felt like I was the only person in the world who knew about it. That kind of emotional framing pulls the listener in, making them feel like they're experiencing it alongside you. The key here is to make your audience feel something that connects them to your story. It could be sympathy, excitement, fear, or even humor. For instance, if you're telling a funny story, lean into the absurdity or relatability of the situation. Picture this. I'm running late, holding a cup of coffee, and then, bam, the wind slams the door shut and I'm locked out in my pajamas. I mean, who does that even happen to? Humor creates a shared sense of humanity, and when people are laughing, they're not questioning, they're connecting. um, Here's another fascinating psychological insight. Emotions create memories. If your story evokes strong feelings, it's far more likely to stick with your audience. That's why people remember heartfelt speeches, inspiring movies, or even moving commercials. They're not just hearing words, they're experiencing feelings. And when someone remembers your story, they're less likely to question its authenticity later, because it's become a part of their own emotional landscape. Now, let's talk about delivery. To truly sell an emotional appeal, you have to feel it yourself. If you're telling a sad story, slow down your pacing, lower your tone, and let your audience hear the emotion in your voice. If it's a thrilling story, let your excitement shine through, speed up your words, use vivid gestures, and make your energy contagious. Your delivery is what transforms a simple tale into an unforgettable experience. But a word of caution, don't overdo it. If your story feels too exaggerated or manipulative, it could backfire and make people skeptical. Authenticity is key, even if the story itself isn't entirely true. The emotions you convey should feel real and relatable, not forced or over the top. So remember, when you use emotional appeals, you're not just telling a story. You're creating an experience. Whether it's a tale of triumph, loss, or hilarity, the goal is to make your audience feel something that resonates deeply with them. And once they're emotionally hooked, they're far less likely to question the truth behind your narrative. That's the magic of emotions. They don't just capture attention, they hold it. Moving on to the next way, let's dive into an intriguing facet of human behavior, the art of deception. Practice makes perfect, and this adage holds true not just in sports or music, but in the intricate dance of lying as well. Mastering the craft of deception requires a level of rehearsal that can transform a mere story into a convincing performance. Imagine standing on a stage, the spotlight shining down with an audience hanging on your every word. This is the mindset you should adopt when preparing your narrative. The smoother your delivery, the less likely you are to trip up under scrutiny, making it imperative to practice until your story flows as effortlessly as a well-rehearsed script. Think of it as preparing for a big performance. Confidence is key. When you rehearse, you not only memorize your lines, but also become intimately familiar with the nuances of your story. This familiarity breeds confidence, which in turn translates into a more compelling and believable delivery. When you're confident, your body language, tone, and facial expressions all align to create a convincing facade. The audience, whether it's a single person or a group, picks up on these cues, unconsciously gauging your credibility. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Research has shown that people who practice their lies are better at maintaining eye contact and controlling their emotions, both of which are crucial when trying to deceive someone. Think about it. When you're lying, the fear of getting caught can lead to nervous tics or averted gazes. However, by practicing, you can minimize these telltale signs. This doesn't mean you should become a master manipulator. Rather, it's about understanding the psychological elements involved in communication. Furthermore, you can enhance your storytelling by incorporating small, relatable details that lend authenticity to your narrative. For example, if you're fabricating an excuse for being late, adding sensory details like describing the aroma of fresh coffee or the sound of traffic can make your story more believable. This technique taps into the audience's imagination, allowing them to visualize the scenario you're painting, thus making it easier for them to accept your fabricated reality. Additionally, consider the power of pacing. When delivering your story, vary your speed and tone to emphasize key points. Slow down during critical moments to build suspense, or speed up during less crucial parts to maintain engagement. This dynamic delivery not only keeps your audience's attention, but also reinforces the authenticity of your narrative. People are drawn to stories that evoke emotions, so make your tale resonate by weaving in moments of tension. Additionally, consider the power of pacing. When delivering your story, vary your speed and tone to emphasize key points. Slow down during critical moments to build suspense, or speed up during less crucial parts to maintain engagement. This dynamic delivery not only keeps your audience's attention, but also reinforces the authenticity of your narrative. People are drawn to stories that evoke emotions, so make your tale resonate by weaving in moments of tension and resolution. Lastly, the context in which you deliver your story can significantly impact its reception. Whether it's a casual conversation, a formal meeting, or a high-stakes negotiation, understanding the setting will help you tailor your delivery accordingly. Each context comes with its own set of expectations and norms, so adapting your approach can bolster your credibility. In conclusion, the art of lying is not merely about the content of the lie, but also about the performance surrounding it. By practicing your story until it feels second nature, you can elevate your delivery, making it not just believable, but also engaging. Remember, every great performance requires preparation, so take the time to rehearse and refine your narrative. With competence and skill, you might just find that the truth is not the only thing that can captivate an audience. Number 8, create a diversion. This tactic is a staple in the world of deception, and for good reason. If you sense that someone is about to challenge your story, diverting their attention can be your best ally. Imagine you're in a high-stakes conversation and the tension begins to rise. Suddenly, you feel the need to shift the focus. This is where the magic happens. By changing the subject or introducing a new, intriguing topic, you can effectively regain control of the dialogue. Think of it like a magician performing a sleight of hand trick. While the audience is busy looking one way, the magician executes their illusion unnoticed. The same principle applies when you're trying to steer a conversation away from uncomfortable territory. By introducing a captivating new subject, you can redirect attention and diffuse any potential confrontation. Ding dang. Yeah, I think a lot of us are taking this can be as simple as bringing up a recent viral trend, an interesting news story, or even a shared hobby that sparks enthusiasm. For instance, if you're in a discussion about your questionable excuse for missing an event, you might pivot to a captivating anecdote about a recent adventure or a funny incident that happened to a mutual friend. This not only lightens the mood, but also engages your listener in a way that shifts their focus away from your story. People love stories, especially those that evoke laughter or curiosity, making them more likely to forget what they were questioning in the first place. Moreover, creating a diversion can also involve using sensory details to capture attention. Imagine describing an amazing dish you recently tried or a breathtaking place you visited. The more vividly you paint the picture, the more your audience will be drawn into your narrative, effectively distracting them from their initial line of questioning. Engaging their senses by describing aromas, sounds, or visuals can make your diversion even more compelling. Another fascinating aspect of this technique is the psychology behind it. People are naturally curious and have a tendency to follow the path of least resistance. When you introduce a new topic, especially one that resonates with their interests, their attention will shift almost instinctively. This is where your ability to read the room and understand your audience comes into play. Knowing what excites them can provide a treasure trove of diversionary topics at your fingertips. Additionally, consider using humor as a diversionary tool. A well-timed joke or lighthearted comment can create a relaxed atmosphere, making it harder for anyone to challenge your previous statements. Laughter has a unique way of breaking tension and fostering connection, and when done right, it can completely change the direction of a conversation. It's also important to be mindful of your timing. The key to a successful diversion is knowing when to implement it. If someone seems skeptical or is probing for more details, that's your cue to pivot. Timing your diversion effectively will ensure that it feels natural rather than maintaining the fluidity of your conversation. In conclusion, creating a diversion is not just about escaping scrutiny, it's about mastering the art of conversation. By skillfully redirecting attention, you can navigate challenging discussions with ease and even turn them into engaging exchanges. So the next time you feel the pressure rising, remember the power of a well-placed diversion. Coming in at number 9, leverage social proof. In a world dominated by social interactions and online platforms, the concept of social proof has never been more relevant. It's a fascinating phenomenon where people look to the actions and opinions of others to guide their own behavior. When it comes to storytelling, especially when you want to build credibility for a fabricated tale, this principle can work wonders. Imagine you're sharing an unbelievable story, and suddenly you mention that a few friends or acquaintances can vouch for it. That little detail can transform your narrative from merely questionable to seemingly trustworthy. Social proof acts as a psychological safety net, reinforcing the idea that if others support your claim, it must hold some validity. It's a clever tactic that plays on our innate desire to conform and seek validation from those around us. Harnessing social media can significantly amplify this effect. In today's digital age, platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram allow you to cultivate a network of support for your narrative. For instance, if you're spinning a tale about an extraordinary trip to an exotic location, posting pictures or stories that showcase your adventure can enhance the believability. Tagging friends who were supposedly part of the experience can further cement your story in the minds of your audience. When they see others engaging with your content, liking, commenting, or sharing, it creates an illusion of consensus that makes your story more compelling. Moreover, think about the impact of testimonials. If you can have a friend or two corroborate your story, their endorsement can add an extra layer of credibility. This is particularly effective in face-to-face conversations, where the presence of a supportive ally can influence perceptions. When people hear someone else affirming your claims, they're more likely to accept your narrative without question. It's a classic example of the bandwagon effect. If many people believe it, it must be true. Additionally, consider how you can utilize influencer culture to your advantage. In our social media-driven world, influencers hold a significant amount of sway over public opinion. If you can position your story in a way that aligns with trending topics or popular figures, it can create a ripple effect of social proof. Imagine weaving a narrative that connects your experience with a well-known event or a trending hashtag. This not only captures attention, but also makes your story feel relevant and validated by association. But let's not forget the ethical implications of using social proof in this way. While it can be an effective strategy, it's crucial to approach it with caution. Misusing social proof can lead to a breakdown of trust, especially in personal relationships. Authenticity matters, and while it might be tempting to create a web of support for a lie, it's essential to. In conclusion, leveraging social proof is a powerful tool that can enhance your storytelling, making it more credible and engaging. By cultivating a supportive environment, whether through social media, testimonials, or aligning with trending topics, you can create a narrative that resonates and convinces. Remember, humans are social creatures, and our perceptions are heavily influenced by the actions of others. So the next time you're crafting a story, think about how you can harness the power of social proof to elevate your narrative and captivate your audience. And finally, know when to stop. This principle is vital in the art of deception, and it's often overlooked. Picture this: you've spun an elaborate tale, and for a while it's been well received. But suddenly you sense the tide turning. Questions arise, eyebrows are raised, and the once friendly audience starts to scrutinize your story. In these moments, it's essential to recognize when to cut your losses and retreat strategically. Think of it like a game of chess, where each move counts, and sometimes sacrificing a pawn can prevent greater losses. The same applies to your narrative. If you feel your lie beginning to unravel, it may be wiser to step back rather than digging a deeper hole. A strategic retreat can help you avoid further scrutiny and embarrassment. It's about playing the long game, and knowing that sometimes it's better to walk away gracefully than to fight a losing battle. The ability to read the room is crucial here. Are your listeners still engaged, or are they starting to look skeptical? If their interest is waning, or if you detect signs of doubt, it's time to recalibrate, take a breath, assess the situation, and decide whether to pivot your story or gracefully exit. This not only protects your credibility, but also allows you to maintain relationships that could be strained by a prolonged deception. Moreover, embracing the concept of humility in these moments can be refreshing. If you realize your story is faltering, consider acknowledging the exaggeration or the embellishment. A simple, okay, I might have stretched the truth a bit, let me tell you what really happened, can turn a potential disaster into an opportunity for honesty. People often appreciate authenticity and vulnerability, which can foster trust and even deepen connections. Additionally, knowing when to stop can also involve the art of distraction, which we discussed earlier. If you sense that your story is losing traction, you might pivot to a different narrative that is more engaging or relatable. This can redirect the conversation and take the heat off your original tale. It's a clever tactic that allows you to regain control and keep your audience entertained. Timing is another critical factor in this strategy. The longer you hold on to a lie that's unraveling, the more entangled you become in a web of deceit. The pressure builds, and the likelihood of getting caught increases exponentially. By recognizing the signs early and acting swiftly, you can mitigate damage and preserve your reputation. Moreover, there's a psychological aspect to knowing when to stop. Many people are drawn to authenticity and will respect you more for admitting when you've gone too far. This can lead to stronger connections and a more positive perception of you as someone who values honesty, even in tricky situations. In conclusion, mastering the art of knowing when to stop is essential in the realm of storytelling and deception. By recognizing the signs of unraveling and being willing to pivot or retreat, you can save face and maintain relationships. Remember, it's not just about the story you tell, but how you navigate the complexities of human interaction. Sometimes a strategic retreat is the smartest move you can make, allowing you to live to tell another tale. Hopefully, one that's rooted in truth.